Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn today. We are going to talk about the mushrooms of Pennsylvania, and joining us is Ann Berger, or Fluff, as we call her, the Vice President of the Western Pennsylvania Mushroom Club. Welcome, Fluff.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Excellent. So I just want to remind all of our viewers that you can leave comments during the presentation, questions in the comment section below, and we'll address them at the end of Fluff's talk here. So feel free to ask away. Perfect. All right. Well, with no further delay, Fluff, if you want to get us started, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Let me get it here. And
perfect.
Are we on?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks so much. And hello, everyone out there, and welcome to this presentation of Mushrooms of Pennsylvania. Throughout this presentation, I've added the names of the mushrooms in each of the photos, though I won't be talking in detail about each one. So let's get started. The first thing to understand is, what is a mushroom? We often use the terms fungus and mushroom interchangeably, and rightly so, because the mushroom is part of the fungus. It's the reproductive structure of a fungus where the spores are produced and distributed. Spores drift upon air currents. If they land on a nutritious food source, they will send out tiny tendrils called mycelium, which begin to spread until they've absorbed enough nutrition to produce a mushroom. The fungus is the larger organism that produces the mushrooms. It lives beneath the surface of the ground or other nutrition source like dead wood or leaf litter. Some fungi don't produce mushrooms. For instance, brown rot fungus consumes the cellulose from decomposing wood, which causes it to crack into these vaguely cubical forms. But you won't find a brown rot mushroom, only the fungus, which lives in the decomposing wood. Now, there are lots of fungi that don't produce mushrooms, but in this presentation, we're only going to focus on those that do. In Pennsylvania, we have over 1,000 different species of fungi, many of which are edible. Several are highly sought after and delicious. Now, certainly there are several poisonous species, and by poisonous, I mean that they can make you ill only if you eat them. You can't be poisoned by touching or holding a mushroom or by smelling it. In order to cause problems, even the deadly mushrooms have to be swallowed into your digestive system. Did you know that all fungi perform a function in nature? There are mycorrhizal fungi like the lovely frost bolete, saprobic fungi like bleeding mycena, which exudes a red juice when it's crushed, or parasitic fungi like honey mushrooms. Let's take a closer look at each function. Mycorrhizal fungi create a symbiotic network between themselves, plants, and trees. The fungi receive sugars from the plants or trees, and in turn benefit them by making them more healthy, larger, and more disease-resistant and drought-resistant. Many of the fungi you see under trees on the forest floor are mycorrhizal. Saprobic fungi decompose dead organic matter to use as food. This helps to recycle these back into the components and nutrients that can again be used by plants and trees. The pink marasmias are feeding upon leaf litter, and the golden foliota are decomposing a dead log. Parasitic fungi feed upon a living host, weakening it or killing it. Now, hen of the woods is a fairly weak parasite on the roots of oaks and other broadleaf trees. It'll often come up in the same spot for several years without killing its host tree, but weakening it so that it becomes more susceptible to diseases or breakage. The orange fungus, the lobster mushroom, is much more aggressive. It completely infiltrates its host and turns it into a different form. You can see that In the background there is a mushroom that's beginning to be transformed, and in the front is one that's a standard lobster mushroom that's finished transforming. There are even parasitic fungi that attack insects, permeating their bodies and sending out spore-bearing spikes from random parts of the hijacked insect. Now that we've looked at the known functions of fungi, let's discover other fascinating fungal facts. Most people are surprised to learn that many mushrooms are seasonal, while others will grow at any time of year when the conditions are favorable. Mushrooms that you can expect to see in the spring may begin with the striking scarlet elf cups. You can find them when you're out and about, nestled in old leaves or grassy open spaces along trails in March and April. There are different species of brown cups. Some are growing on the ground, others will grow on dead wood. The dryad saddle, the crown coral, and the platterful all have something in common despite their diverse, obvious differences in appearance. They have devoted foragers who find them delicious. Now, speaking of delicious, the ultimate find for spring mushroom hunters are morels. Pennsylvania has several types of morels, and they are a good gourmet quality edible. Even if you're not a fan of fungal food, they're a sweet find because morels are beautiful to look at, and they're fun to photograph. They are mycorrhizal and possibly saprobic as well with some of them. They grow under several types of trees, including apple, sycamore, recently dead elm, white pine, and other conifers. But they're gone by the end of June, if not sooner. Now, there are false morels out there, but true morels are hollow from the top to the bottom. As June ushers in the summertime, the next wave of fungi begins flying in. Among the colorful and interesting mushrooms, you'll also find the brilliant white, definitely deadly, destroying angels. Ingestion of these mushrooms, if left untreated, will result in permanent kidney and liver failure and death. That being said, they are easy to recognize, so they're equally easy to avoid winding up in your frying pan. Destroying angels are definitely worth taking a good look at. The cap, the gills on the underside of the cap, the stem, the ring on the upper part of the stem, and the sac at the base of the stem, which is sometimes hidden in the dirt, are all an angelic white. As I mentioned earlier, picking this mushroom from the forest floor and studying it can't hurt you, and it can help you to learn more about this deadly beauty. Now, if you keep your eyes roving as you walk through the summer forest, there's always something interesting to see. Investigate the mushrooms you find. The undersides are as diverse as the tops. For instance, the gills of lactarius mushrooms leak a milky latex if you run a fingernail across them, as you can see in that picture at the top right. Turning over a mushroom here and there, you will discover members of the bolete family, which have pores underneath their caps instead of gills. But you won't be limited to just cap and stem fungi. You'll also see coral and club fungi in lots of colors. On decaying branches and logs, look for small red spots. Then look even more closely to discover why they're called eyelash cups. As close as your own mulch bed, you can find tiny bird's nest fungi complete with egg-like structures called peridioles. Raindrops cause the peridioles to splash out of the nests, beginning to spread the spores from inside them. The special treat for many mushroom foodies in the summer is finding a nice patch of hefty chanterelles. Pennsylvania has a variety of chanterelles, from tiny to quite large in size. I'd say probably as big as your hand. They're different from other summer fungi in that chanterelles have no gills or pores. Their spore-bearing surface varies from smooth to lined with hard ridges, rather than the soft blade-like gills of other mushrooms. In a fruitful year, chanterelles can be abundant on the ground in hardwood forests. As summer saunters on into autumn, a seasonal fungal drama plays out every year. Abortive entoloma fungi find a honey fungus as it's beginning to produce mushrooms. The entolomas invade the honey mushrooms and convert them into thick, rounded, firm blobs of deliciousness called shrimp of the woods. These aborted forms of the honey mushrooms, though they certainly do grow, are unable to reproduce. Now, the normal cap and stem forms of the entolomas and the unaltered honey mushrooms are usually able to be seen as well. Honey mushrooms in their normal state are also, like those on the bottom there, they're also very good edibles. But it is best to leave the normal entoloma mushrooms, pictured in that upper photo there, leave those alone on and near the dead logs, and they'll continue to attack more honey mushrooms and make more delicious shrimp of the woods. Other fine, edible, and visually interesting fungi are abundant in the fall. Hen of the woods is also called sheep's head by some foragers. It often weighs a few pounds, and it looks like a giant brownish gray flower growing at the base of oak trees. While turkey tails and false turkey tails are a common sight in the woods, you may be treated to the sight of a coral tooth fungus growing from a decomposing log. They are truly a treat. It always reminds me of a 3D frost growing just on a log. They're stupendously beautiful. Now, there are two other common and familiar fungi I'd like to note. Oyster mushrooms are first. Oysters will grow anytime conditions are right, that being dampness caused by rain or high humidity. Notice the difference in color between summer oyster mushrooms and those that grow later in the year. Summer oysters are white, while in the fall and winter, they can be some shade of gray or brown on top. The gills underneath the caps are white on all oysters. They are one of my favorite delicious edibles. The last mushroom I'll talk about is chicken of the woods. Chickens grow on dead logs or damaged trees. They're probably the most eye-catching fungus in the woods. Those brilliant orange and yellow or orange and white brackets just pop right out. They have a yellow or white pore surface underneath each bracket. Chicken of the woods are beloved for their flavor and their prolific growth. Sometimes you can take home several pounds of the edible portions of these. My fellow Pennsylvanians, I would love to keep telling you more about the fungi out there. But you know what? The best way to discover is to get out there yourself. Now, there's lots of help available. A couple of great places to browse and learn online include mushroomexpert.com and Wood Decay Fungi by Gary Emberger. If you plug either one of those into your browser, they will pop up. If you're curious about nature in general, including mushrooms, get the free iNaturalist app for your phone and your computer. Take a photo of any creature and upload it to iNat, and you can learn its name and see other photos of similar creatures, mushrooms included. To focus solely on fungi, check out the Mushroom Observer website. You can upload your photos and learn what their names are. There are just scads of mushroom experts on Mushroom Observer. You can learn the names of the mushrooms you're uploading, as well as documenting the mushrooms in your area. Now, the people at Fungal Diversity are documenting and saving specimens of fungi to archive species from all over the world. And they're looking for citizen scientists to participate as well. So you may want to check that out. Field guides are such valuable resources that you can take with you into the field or use at home. They teach many skills as well for identifying and recognizing different types of mushrooms. Of course, they're available at bookstores, and there are just so many of them available online as well. Lastly, I encourage you heartily to join a local club. There's bound to be one that you can get to. Clubs are probably the best way to learn to recognize different kinds of fungi, and many clubs have regular mushroom walks throughout the year. Friendly, helpful people are there to answer your questions. You can take advantage of so many experienced people who can answer whatever you have to ask. And Sarah, thank you so much for letting me do this. And thank you for everyone for your interest in the fascinating world of fungi.
Thank you so much, Fluff. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. So I'd love to know just a little bit about how you got interested in mushrooms and how long you've been studying them.
I got interested in mushrooms when, let's see, a couple of moves ago. We've moved for my husband's work, and I just found myself in a new place, and I love to be outdoors. So I started, it's probably 30 years ago now that I started studying. When I first started, I got the Audubon Guide to Mushrooms and did what I could to investigate the mushrooms that I found around me in the woods and the fields. When I moved to Pittsburgh, where I am now,
wow,
I heard a presentation by someone from the Western Pennsylvania Mushroom Club that really intrigued me. And I looked into it and started attending. And I cannot emphasize enough how much more I was able to learn once I joined the club. So I encourage everybody to do that.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you're the vice president of the Western Pennsylvania Mushroom Club,
well,
correct?
For the rest of this year, yes.
That's great. And so what are your duties as vice president? How do you help the club?
I do presentations. I've done quite a few in person. We do an education day every year, so I help set up that. I take, when we had our meetings in person, if the president couldn't make it, I would introduce the meetings and the speakers. I also help with our foray. We have a yearly foray, and round up people and work with them to put a foray together where we collect the mushrooms in a particular area and document them and talk about them. So it's busy thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a commitment. So you mentioned, everyone's doing things differently these days. So is there a way for folks to be engaged with the Western PA Mushroom Club even during these challenging times?
Sure. We have a website. Just type in Western PA Mushroom Club and it pops right up. There it is. And we have walks that they're small, and they are usually, we have been doing them every weekend. I'm actually not sure if we're still doing them every weekend, but we check our website, and we have a Facebook page as well. Mm-hmm. And we're always excited to have people join the club for 2021 coming up.
Wonderful.
We're looking forward to getting back in person because we have some wonderful things. We have a mushroom grow day where we get kits that have been put together by our mushroom, the people who love to grow them. And they put kits together for us, and I really missed that from last year.
Yeah, that sounds like a great day. We'd love to have you back to talk about growing mushrooms at home. I'm curious to try my hand at it, honestly. So even for just my own education,
you may want to actually get the people who are really, really good at it. I do the kit, and I get the mushrooms from the kit, but there are people who they talk about growing all different kinds of mushrooms. And we have wonderful, Jim Tunney is his name. He tries everything, and he can grow mushrooms on air, I think. Just kidding. But he's amazing. So
That's wonderful.
I can recommend him for talking about mushrooms.
Okay, thank you so much for the insight. Well, thank you so much, Fluff. If folks have any questions, they can reach out to me and I can get them to Fluff. So don't be afraid. Hold on, we do have a comment. Let me see. Hold on. It's just a lot of, we do have a question if you don't mind. You see here, are there programs for kids? Do you have involvement for children to get involved and learn more?
Yes, absolutely. We love to have kids come because you know what? They are so good at finding mushrooms. I don't know why. I don't know. Adults, can walk by a patch of mushrooms and kids go, look, So we love having kids on our walks. So definitely.
Great. So let me just put the website up one more time. So if folks want to reach out and get involved, they can start there.
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you again, Fluff, for being here today. We really appreciate your time and passion.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me. And I hope everybody enjoys the presentation.
Yes, absolutely.